I would like to talk about the effects of the legalization of marijuana, aka cannabis, aka weed, whatever you choose to use. Excuse me. It's a long day, people. And I want to talk about its effect on the economy. The subject of legalizing marijuana is not a new one. It has been an ongoing cry or battle since the 70s. We're talking 50 years, folks. There were some states that made some adjustments, but there was always that overall cry to make it federally legal. Because it's been going on for so many years, it finally has been passed and has been allowed to be legalized. But the people think it's because of years and years of pressure from the public and years of pressure from special interest groups, and that the politicians and the powers that be finally just worn down. Finally decide to listen to the people. Well, that's partially true, people. Now, I mentioned before how I worked in different organizations, nonprofits, and things like that, and they have very close relationships with people that were involved in the courts, politicians, and special interest groups, as well as some corporations that donated to those causes. And I had a chance to work with some of these people in the largest cities, in Chicago, in Providence, Rhode Island. And I had a chance to work with them, whether it was through community service associated with school, or the community service that was associated with my time working with the rehab, and later on with the homeless shelter. I had a chance to work with some of the people that are associated with the powers that be. And I learned some information in regards to the legalization of marijuana, of how it's going to affect the economy, and the predictions that were made are coming true. Now, of course, my service was done before it was legalized, but there were still talks, okay? You still had two groups of people, the ones that were totally against it and the ones that were for it. The ones that were for it were not for it because they just want to do drugs. They weren't for it because they were drug users. They weren't for it because they saw because there was a ton of money to be made. That was part of the reason. And another part of the reason was listening to the people, but also the effect on the economy. It affects the workforce. See, even though the legalization of marijuana has been completed, and even though drug-related offenses associated with the sale and distribution of marijuana are being, those crimes are being reduced in severity in several states at this time, that means that does not have a direct effect on private industry. Because, see, private industry, they can still do drug testing, and they could still accept or deny a person due to cannabis use. See, what has happened was with the legalization of marijuana, people that were already using the drug, now they're just legal and justified. And some people who are addicted, daily weed smokers, because of whatever reason, they feel justified now because it's legalized. And because they're doing it on a daily basis, they fail to realize a lot of them work in businesses or previously worked in businesses that conducted random drug testing. Now, see, what you fail to understand is just because the legalization of marijuana occurred does not affect drug testing in private industry. They can do random drug testing, and they could do mandatory drug testing at any given time, and they can still dismiss or fire someone or institute any type of discipline against someone due to elevated levels of marijuana in their blood or in their urine. They can still do that. See, that litigation has not been adjusted. And it's not going to be. Now, I want you to think very closely about this. Let's just say before the passing of marijuana, there were a lot of people that worked jobs that required drug testing. I work a job that required drug testing before you even got hired. And I may be subject to random drug testing. If you had a person before the legalization of marijuana that worked a job that had these type of conditions, they were less likely to consume as much as they consume now. But because they consume so much, that part of the brain that deals with, rational thought and deductive reasoning, that has been relaxed due to the THC that was released in the marijuana. I know you guys that do this don't want to hear it, but that's true. Excessive use, which means use every single day, affects the brain. And what happens is these people who had these jobs before, and a lot of these jobs that require this pay well above minimum wage, usually have benefit packages in the whole 9 yards. So let's just say that you're working a job, let's say manufacturing, because that's a common industry where they do a lot of drug testing, and they're very strict about it. You worked in manufacturing for 10, 15 years, supported a family, very good income, mortgage, cars, kids, and everything else. But you unwind every single day after work by smoking weed. After 10, 12 years service, they do a random drug test, and then all of a sudden there's a problem. They may not fire you. They could suspend you for a few days, or they could reduce your shift hours. That is if they don't terminate you. It depends on the industry. See, there are no laws against that. And I'm not asking it there be laws, because what that happens was that interferes with private industry, that interferes with capitalism and the freedoms associated with it. So the government's not going to touch that. But don't you realize that when they did the legalization of marijuana, that they thought about the workforce and the economy? I hate to say this, people, but the legalization of marijuana is actually a dividing tool. What it does is it defines who the strong workers are and who aren't. What it does is it weeds out, and excuse the play on words, it parses out the workforce. If you have strong workers in the economy, you have strong taxpayers. Strong taxpayers, more taxes. More taxes, more government money available. More government money available, more salaries to be paid to government officials, more funding for government programs, more funding for government projects. So, did you not think that when they drafted the bill to legalize marijuana, that the economy was not going to be affected, that there was not some projected analysis on how this was going to weed out the workforce? Excuse the play on words. It is. It's happening now. And the reason why I brought this up is because I now work for a business where it's an established business in my region. Very good package as far as benefits, salary that is livable. And the biggest problem right now, my business as well as many other businesses that my friends work in that pay well and that are established, the number one of two problems that they have is getting people who can pass the drug test. And see, the company can establish what they consider a drug. Technically, marijuana is a drug. It's a gateway drug. And yes, it came from a plant, but cocaine also came from a plant. So is heroin. They came from plants. But a drug has been extracted from those plants. So what it's doing is the legalization of marijuana is creating a bigger divide amongst the workforce. So people who are daily weed smokers, all of a sudden, let's go back to the person who had the job for 10 and 12 years, they're losing income because of a habit they had for 10 and 12 years. They can't sue the company because they didn't comply with the conditions. They failed the drug test. Their economy's in jeopardy, their households in jeopardy, their families in jeopardy. So I just say this to say this. Don't use the legalization of marijuana as an excuse to just randomly smoke it anytime you want and think that everything's going to be okay with your job and everything is going to be okay with your pocketbook. If you have the type of job or the type of industry that you work in requires random drug testing or requires a background check or drug testing, and you use this on a regular basis, it could be anywhere from 3 days to several weeks before you will be able to pass a drug test. And you don't know. I'm saying this as a warning. You might want to consider going into another industry or start a business for yourself, because that's part of the reason why we have so many jobs that are open now. People can't pass the background check or they can't pass the drug test for the good paying jobs, and that's why there's so many openings now. That's one of the reasons why there's so many openings now. They can't pass one or the other or both. You have to take your economy seriously. You have to take your lifestyle seriously. Is it worth you not even being able to take care of yourself for this? I'm not telling you not to consume. No, I'm talking to the people who do this on a daily basis. And I'm sorry, I hate to say this, but it is a form of addiction if you actually think that there is an issue with your job, if you're not willing to even give up this habit so you can take care of your family. See, this is where it borders on addiction. I know a lot of people are not going to agree with this, but I just wanted to explain one of the underlying reasons why the legalization of marijuana was passed. There's an economic factor to this. This was passed in a way to separate the strong workers from the weak ones, and it's working, people. Pay close attention. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go. Peace.